Hello and welcome to this special edition of Car Dealer Live. I'm James Bagger. I'm the founder of Car Dealer Magazine. Today we're talking the Car Dealer Top 100. That's our list of the most profitable dealers in the UK. Chatting to me about this is Ian McMahon from Cooper Parry. Ian, how are you?
Very well indeed, James. Thanks.
Nice to see
Hopefully,
you.
keeping busy as well.
Yeah, indeed I am. Yeah, nice to see you, and thanks for joining us for this roundup of the top 100. This year, sponsored by Heycar. So now this list is ranking car dealers in the UK on their profitability. We use EBITDA as the profit benchmark for that. That's earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. Not very easy for me to say. It's the fairest comparison we think for businesses' profitability, and those details are taken from accounts filed with Companies House in 2023. So Ian and his team has been very carefully looking through all of those, haven't you, Ian? It's a very interesting list this year. We're going to go into a little bit of detail on the risers, fallers, and those who've topped it. But let's just firstly just talk a little bit about EBITDA and just explain why we've used that as our benchmark, because that people will be wondering, well, why aren't we using operating profit? Why are we not using pre-tax profit? I mean, it's just worth explaining why we use EBITDA.
Yeah, absolutely fine, James. And yeah, absolutely right. It's a measure that's often referred to because it indicates cash generative profit in some respects. Depreciation and amortization it's an accounting adjustment. It doesn't affect cash. However, it is worth mentioning that interest, especially in the current climate for dealers with the stocking loans and the typical funding that they do require, does have a big impact in terms of their net profit if you include or exclude that. So you're quite right. EBITDA is a great measure to look at the underlying earnings potential of a business, but it's not the only measure. Certainly, net profit is another good indicator. But I think for the purposes of what we're doing today, trying to compare a very mixed bag of businesses, yeah, it's still our favourite go-to measure on that basis.
Yeah, definitely. It's not an easy job, I know, comparing all these businesses, and often these profits are held up in holdings accounts here, and it's very difficult to unpick. So thank you to you and your team for the hard work on that. I mean, just some of the headline figures we've got for the top 100 this year. So this looks at the 2023 accounts, not 2024, even though we're coming towards the end of that year. It shows that profit for the total top 100 was 2.62 billion. That's down on 2.78 billion the year before in 2022. Turnover has risen considerably to 88.8 billion, up from 73.7 billion the year before. So we've seen revenues rise, but profits fall. I mean, just before we get into a bit of the details, give us a little bit of an overview, Ian. What's happened out there? What's caused this?
Yeah, I think when we got into the data, we were actually surprised at how little the absolute value of EBITDA had fallen. Anecdotally, a lot of dealers who had a December 23 year end, which a majority do, would have taken quite a considerable level of provision against the used stock. We can all remember quarter four 23. Most of the guides indicated that values were in a fairly steep decline. And again, if 2 years ago, if you'd asked us what would we have expected to happen with turnover, I think we would have expected it to actually fall if agency had come in the way we expected it to, or the way it was being rolled out by a lot of the manufacturers. In reality, as you say, the absolute value of sales has gone up year on year. EBITDA has dropped slightly, but if you express one as a percentage of the other, conversely, it makes it look like that EBITDA result has worsened. But certainly, new car sales is always a significant element of the overall turnover, and we're still seeing that.
Let's have a look at a little bit of the detail. I mean, we'll start at the top 10, shall we? And then I'll ask you a few questions about those. We've got Arnold Clark at number one with a profit of 366.1 million. Second place, Sitner Group. at 246.2 million. Pendragon in third at 216.6 million. This obviously doesn't take into account the acquisition of Lithia of that business. Group One in fourth with 144.4 million. Lookers in fifth with 99.3 million. CEM Day in sixth, 97.4. Marshalls 95.6. Virtue in eighth, 92.3. JCT 600 in ninth, 58.6 million, and Parks of Hamilton with 51.5 million pounds EBITDA profit, as you say. Total there 1.47 billion. So a huge proportion of the entire car dealer top 100 profit is accounted for by those top 10. They're huge juggernauts of businesses, aren't they?
Yeah, no, they absolutely are. And there's an expectation that they would have struggled with certain aspects of their business during the year. Certainly with used cars and the start of that increase in the interest burden for maybe some of the charges in there, which EBITDA does seek to sort of normalise. But yeah, I think we're right in saying from the top 10 of the top 100, they account for over 55-56% of the total earnings of that 100 dealer portfolio.
And we've got, Arnold Clark in number one there, unsurprisingly, an amazing business there. If you actually look at its operating profit, it was quite down, wasn't it, on the year before? But then we've seen that in all of the big businesses. Interest charges, as you've said, which these numbers don't take into account, have been quite punishing, haven't they, for businesses? Arnold Clark, in particular, they suffered that cyber attack, didn't they, at the start of, the end of 2022 and into 23. Eddie Hawthorne, in his CEO report for that year, said that had hurt the business quite considerably. But interestingly, we haven't seen a huge drop in their EBITDA numbers, 366 million this year compared to 383 last year. So they're still generating that cash, aren't they?
Yeah, it's as a business of that size, to keep all the business units performing on target it's a fantastic achievement, and I'm sure many lesser businesses, and I say that in size and in sort of breadth of skill sets, would have suffered more as a result of that cyber attack. But credit to them for ploughing on through. It seems as if it's certainly in these accounts it's had a negligible impact.
Yeah, they've certainly bounced back from it and done an incredible job. And actually, when you look at those numbers, they're over 100 million more in terms of the profitability than Sytner in second place, despite the fact they turn over something like 2.5 billion less. I mean, it's amazing achievement. What is it that makes Arnold Clark so special?
They've always had a fantastic used car focus, and I suppose part of that goes into understanding the product that they retail. In the past, you've seen some really good initiatives that they've rolled out in terms of educating the customer about EVs, about the market opportunity, about the need to knows before committing to buy. And I hope it's reflected in the fact that it has given their customer base the confidence to go out and invest money in an EV platform where others have maybe not been as forward thinking.
And compiling this list, Ian, with the team, has there been any major surprises for you?
It's I'll put a little disclaimer in here. I think every year we try to get it right first time, and every year I'm sure there'll be one or two out there that they'll see the detail of the numbers and they'll sort of remark that maybe we've got it slightly wrong. But looking at things in the rounds, there's been a couple of businesses that have had some really rather significant exceptional items, and we've tried to keep those out of the picture. So Lookers, I think in one of your earlier reports, made a really good point about the 38 million that they had incurred on restructuring costs after the Global Auto transaction. And one of perhaps the slight outlier in some of these figures was Car Giant as well. I think they had it's like a £50 million property impairment in the year, which anecdotally, I believe, was down to the valuation basis, given the HS2 link wasn't successful or didn't get pushed through. But other than that, I was surprised at the outturn on the level of EBITDA. Hopefully, it's reassuring that the after sales components of these businesses are robust, and yeah, I suppose being quick to react to the market conditions on used has really seen that some of these businesses can weather the proverbial storm and do so with a degree of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some big rises this year. JTG Holdings up 46 places to 55th. Partridge of Hampshire are up 41 places. AWR Holdings up 33 places. So some businesses that have made some big jumps up the list. But I'd like to just talk to you about a couple of the fallers. Motorpoint, a huge drop this year, down 60 places to 95th. And actually, when you look back at their accounts and their pre-tax profit stroke loss, they made a £300,000 loss, didn't they, for last year? EBITDA numbers show 3.4 million. I mean, there are some businesses that have struggled out there, Motorpoint being one of them.
Yeah, and if you compare and contrast Arnold Clark to Motorpoint, I know they're very different sized businesses, but Arnold Clark have got a great used car focus. Motorpoint should have the same, although they don't have any other real income streams to rely upon as part of that business model, and that has shown through in there. Some of the other businesses that have been successful in moving up the rankings have done so through either acquisitions or organic growth. But I kind of guess with Motorpoint, they really haven't had anywhere to go to. It's just been we're focused on the used car market, and in some respects, they're very much at the whim of how that stock performs, how the guides value it, and obviously some of it comes down to consumer confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows you just how much of a great business that Arnold Clark business is at the top, because they, as you say, they do very, very well with used cars, and they seem to make it work when a lot of other people have struggled in that year, Motorpoint being one of them. So, I mean, let's just have a little look forward then. I mean, 2024, we're coming towards the end of that now. You're very close to a number of the big dealer groups. You're talking to them all the time. What do you expect to see when we come to have this chat next year for this year's numbers? How's it feeling? Is it going to be up or down on this year? I mean, what's your gut feeling?
The expectation is that even on a normalised basis, it will be down. And I think we're starting to see that cost creep that most dealers had a really good spell after COVID. They were very lean. They cut out some of the nice to haves in the cost base. And certainly looking forward to 24, 25, one statistic we'd like to report back, hopefully this time next year, is on the sort of the indirect cost base of those businesses. Maybe try and express it as a percentage of turnover or percentage of gross profit, and just have a look at how it's moved year on year in absolute terms and percentage terms against the turnover. But I'm not getting the feel that agency is making much change to these businesses as they stand. I think we've heard some really, really positive news about the hiccup with direct commissions and what it did for the industry. It seems like most people have got back onto a business as normal mindset. But yeah, with 4 or 5 weeks to go of the year, I hope everybody manages to hit those quarter four targets.
How would you summarise then the 2023 list in total and the performance you saw from dealers? I mean, it was marginally down, wasn't it, on the year before? I mean, would you peg it as a good, bad year? What would you say?
I think it's a great outturn. When you look back at what 22 and 21 was because of the sort of the post-COVID benefits that some of the businesses had. Some of the smaller groups will still be benefiting from some of the rates relief that was available to them in the context of the larger businesses. That's going to be absolutely negligible. So I think to maintain the EBITDA that they have done year on year, it's a really good result. It's positive. And from here on in, I'm sure many dealer groups are looking towards cash generation and effectively sort of reducing risk against any future borrowing needs or any adverse changes in the rates that they're getting.
Ian, thank you very much to you and the team for putting in all the hard work on going through all those accounts. I know it's a job that I wouldn't want to do myself, so thank you very much. I know our readers appreciate it.
Likewise. Thanks for the opportunity, James.
Thank you. That's Ian McMahon from Cooper Parry. So if you'd like to see the full Car Dealer Top 100 list sponsored by Heycar, it's on our website now. You just need to click on the Top 100 tab at the top of the page. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.